The air hung heavy with sage and damp earth, the kind that clings to your skin after mending fences all morning. My hands were calloused, stained with wire and sweat, the ranch stretching out like a worn blanket around me. I didn't hear the car at first, over the wind rattling the gate, but when it crunched up the drive, sleek and out of place, everything tightened in my chest. She stepped out, city sharp in her pressed shirt and boots that hadn't seen mud. "Here to value the land," she said. My land. The one that held my family's bones. Change smelled like her perfume, cutting through the dust. I felt the ground shift under me already. I started my days before the sun crested the ridge, when the world was still gray and the cold bit at my knuckles. The ranch demanded it. Fences to mend, cabs to check, water troughs to haul. It was a rhythm I'd fallen into after Ma and Pa were gone, their truck wrapped around a cottonwood on the back road. The accident left me with this place, 200 acres of scrub and stubborn soil that yielded just enough to keep the bank at bay. I didn't mind the solitude. It was better than the ache of empty chairs at the table, or the way voices echoed too loud in the house. Out here, with the hammer in my hand and the wire singing under tension, I could breathe. The land didn't ask questions. It just was. That morning, I'd been out since 4, wrestling a section of fence where the posts had rotted from last winter's floods. My back ached from prying the old wood free, but it was honest work. The kind that left marks you could see, not the invisible ones grief carved inside. I wiped sweat from my brow with the back of my arm, tasting salt and dirt, when the engine noise cut through the quiet. Not one of the neighbors' rusted pickups. This was smoother, hungrier. I straightened, squinting against the low sun. The car was black, low-slung, the kind that belonged on city streets, not our gravel drive. It pulled up by the barn, dust swirling around the tires like an unwelcome ghost. She got out slowly, unfolding from the driver's seat with a grace that made my stomach twist. Tall, maybe 5'10", with dark hair pulled back tight and a face that looked carved from the same clean lines as her vehicle. Her shirt was white, crisp, tucked into slacks that hugged her legs. No hat, no gloves, just a clipboard and a tablet that gleamed in the light. City architect, I figured. The kind who drew plans on screens, not with sweat. She scanned the yard, eyes lingering on the sagging porch, the weathered corral. Then they landed on me, steady and assessing. "Morning," she called, her voice carrying clear over the distance. It had an edge, polished but tired, like she'd been driving too long. "I'm looking for the owner of the Double R Ranch." I set the post driver down, leaning it against the fence. My hands flexed, wire cut stinging fresh. "That's me," I said, keeping my tone flat. No need to give away more. Folks like her didn't come for the scenery. She walked closer, boots crunching soft on the gravel. Up close, she was even more out of place. Skin pale from office lights, nails short but manicured. "Eleanor Voss," she introduced herself, extending a hand. I wiped mine on my jeans first, then shook. Her grip was firm, cool. "I'm with Voss and Hale Architects. Your family's estate agent reached out. We're here to assess the property for potential development." The words landed like a hammer blow. Development. That meant buyers, surveys, lines drawn over the map that erased what was here. My family's name on the gate, the graves under the old oak. They'd pave it all for condos or some retreat for city folk wanting a taste of rustic. I pulled my hand back, crossing my arms. Assess for what? This ain't for sale. She didn't flinch, just flipped open her tablet. The estate mentioned financial pressures, inherited debts, I believe. We're exploring options. Subdivision, eco-resort, something that preserves the land while making it viable. Her eyes met mine again, and there it was, a flicker of weariness behind the professional mask. Like she carried her own weight, too heavy for that slim frame. Viable. The word burned. This ranch was viable to me, kept me upright when everything else crumbled. "You city types always think you can fix what's broke with a blueprint," I said, sharper than I meant. "This place has stood 100 years without your help." Eleanor's jaw tightened, but she held steady. I'm not here to fix anything, just to show options. If you'll let me walk the boundaries, I can give a fair valuation by end of day. I wanted to send her packing. Watch that car disappear in a cloud of dust. But the bank's letters piled on the kitchen table, red ink screaming overdue. Ma's voice echoed in my head, practical to the end. One look at her, though, those tired eyes pleading for a chance, and something shifted. Not pity, curiosity, maybe. What drove someone like her out here, to a place that chewed up softness? Fine, I muttered, grabbing my hat from the fence post. But you keep up. These ridges don't wait for heels. She nodded, a small smile ghosting her lips. Wouldn't dream of it. We started toward the north pasture, the sun climbing higher, baking the earth. Her steps were measured beside my stride, the silence between us thick as the heat. I pointed out the creek bed, dry now but fierce in spring, the old windmill creaking like a warning. She asked questions, soil type, water rights, her voice probing without pushing. I answered short, watching her take notes, the tablet screen reflecting the wide sky. By noon, we'd covered half the line. Sweat beating on my neck while she stayed composed, dabbing her forehead with a handkerchief that smelled faintly of lavender. It cut through the ranch's musk, unfamiliar and pulling. This view, she said at one point, pausing on a rise where the valleys unfolded. It's grounding. I grunted, not trusting words. Grounding. To her, maybe a postcard. To me, it was roots digging deep, holding against storms. But as we turned back, her shoulder brushing mine, accidental-like, I felt the first crack. The land between us wasn't just dirt anymore. It was a question, hanging heavy. We pushed on after lunch, a quick sandwich I'd thrown together from the cooler in the truck. She ate standing, eyes on the horizon, while I chewed slow, watching her out of the corner of my eye. The ridges waited, steep and unforgiving, the kind that tested boots and resolve. I led the way up the first slope, my legs burning from the incline, muscles remembering every step like an old habit. She followed without complaint, but I heard her breath quicken, saw the way her hand steadied on a rock now and then. The land unfolded raw underfoot, patches of wild grass giving way to eroded gullies, fence lines sagging where wire had snapped in the wind. Beauty and decay tangled here, the sage blooming purple against cracked earth, a hawk circling lazy overhead. Why keep it all intact? She asked halfway up, voice steady despite the climb. Her tablet stayed tucked in her bag now, questions coming direct. Most ranches this size subdivide for grazing leases. Easier management. I paused at a barbed wire stretch, fingers testing the tension. It hummed low under my touch, like a warning. Easier ain't always right, I said, short. Inside, my gut twisted. Subdivide meant carving up Pa's fields, the ones he'd planted by hand after the drought. Displacement started small, a line on a map, then trucks hauling away what was mine. Her kind saw potential in the empty spaces, but I saw home. This holds together. Family built it that way. She nodded, wiping dust from her slacks, but her eyes sharpened. Urban planning expertise leaked through. Talk of zoning, sustainable yields, how a resort could fund irrigation without selling out. Words like footprint and viability rolled off her tongue, precise as a blueprint. I answered in grunts mostly, pointing out the spring-fed ponds that kept the herd alive through summers, the barn where Ma stored hay bales stacked neat as her temper. But each question peeled back layers I kept buried. Fear gnawed quiet. What if her valuation tipped the scales, made the bank push harder? I'd lose the rhythm, the mornings alone with the wind. The sun dipped lower as we crested the eastern ridge, painting the valley's gold. We stopped there, unspoken, the world dropping away below. Her profile caught the light, sharp jaw softened just a touch, hair loosening from its knot. I felt the silence thicken, not empty, but heavy, pulling at something unnamed. My pulse thudded steady in my ears, like the distant thunder we ignored. Attraction flickered unbidden, her poise against my rough edges, the way she stood unflinching in the vastness. I shifted, boots grinding gravel, afraid she'd see it in my face. "It's beautiful," she murmured, almost to herself. Not just the view, the integrity. I didn't respond, throat tight. Integrity. From her lips, it sounded like a plan, not the scars on my hands. Then she turned, eyes meeting mine direct. I'm not just here for the job, you know. City's been grinding me down, deadlines, concrete everywhere. Burnout hit hard last year. Thought this might remind me why I do it. Her voice cracked, faint, vulnerability slipping through the polish. Tired eyes, like mine after a long night checking strays. I blinked, caught off guard. Not an intruder, then. Just another soul carrying weight. The revelation hung, softening the edge between us. Clouds rolled in, sudden, dark, and brooding. The air turning sharp with rain scent. Storm's coming, I said, nodding west. Better head back. She glanced skyward, then at me. Lead on. By the time we reached the house, fat drops hammered the roof, trapping us inside with a low roar. The kitchen felt too small, stove flickering as I lit it for coffee. No escaping now. The evening stretched, forced close in the dim light. Rain lashed the windows like 1,000 tiny hammers, turning the world outside to a gray smear. I busied myself at the stove, the iron belly glowing red as I fed it split oak from the wood box. Heat bloomed slow, pushing back the damp that seeped through the cracks. Eleanor stood by the door a moment, shaking water from her hair, droplets catching the lamplight like scattered stars. She shrugged off her jacket, hanging it on a peg, and the kitchen shrank further with her in it. No space for walls between us now. I poured coffee into 2 mugs, black and steaming, the bitter scent cutting through the wet earth smell drifting in. Sit, I said, nodding to the scarred oak table. Not an invitation, exactly, but the storm left no choice. She slid into a chair, elbows on the wood, watching me with those steady eyes. The conversation should have stayed on the land, boundaries, values, ways out. But the thunder rolled close, shaking the rafters, and words shifted like the wind. You mentioned your family earlier, she said, voice low over the downpour. Inherited. That's a heavy load alone. Her fingers traced the mug's rim, not drinking yet. No pity in her tone, just a quiet probe, like testing soil before planting. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, heat from the stove warming my back. Heavy's one word. They went quick. Truck slid on ice 3 years back. Left me the ranch and the bills. The words came rough, unused to air. I saw it again. Twisted metal under the cottonwood. Ma's scarf caught in the branches. The land held their absence like a scar, deep but healing slow. Keeps me moving, though. Can't stop or it catches up. She nodded, gaze dropping to her coffee. Steam curled between us, the room's warmth spreading, loosening the knot in my chest. I get that. Lost my dad young, heart attack during a project deadline. He built the firm from nothing, pushed me to take the reins. Now it's all pressure, designs that never feel right. Burnout's a quiet thief. Her voice cracked faint, like dry wood under boot. Tired lines etched her face deeper in the dim light, vulnerability cracking the city shell. The stove popped, embers flaring, mirroring the slow burn inside me. Her words hung, pulling mine out. Not hostility now, but shared weight, heavy as wet saddle leather. I sat across from her, the chair creaking under me. You carry it different. Suits and screens. Out here, it's hands in dirt, feeling the break before it snaps. She smiled, faint. The first real one, softening her jaw. Maybe, but the breaks feel the same. Thunder grumbled distant, rain easing to a steady drum. The heat wrapped us, clothes drying slow, air thick with unspoken ease. I stood to clear the mugs, but my eye caught the shelf by the window, my knife and a half-finished carving. A small horse from ranch pine, whittled in quiet nights. Solace in the grain, shaping rough wood to something alive. Keeps my hands busy when the head won't quiet, I said, picking it up. The blade's edge gleamed, figure rough but true. Legs braced against storm. Eleanor leaned forward, eyes lighting on it. You made that? It's honest. The lines, the tension in the stance, like it knows wind. Her fingers hovered, not touching. Admiration plain. I sketch designs, but they fail. Too perfect, no life. This has soul. Warmth climbed my neck, not just from the stove. No one saw these pieces, not since Ma praised one before the accident. Just scraps, wood from fallen branches. Helps mend what's inside. Her gaze held mine, empathy bridging the table, parallels drawn in failed builds and lost anchors. Storm wind rattled the panes, but inside, lines blurred. She set her mug down, decisive. Fence tomorrow. I'll help. Show me how. Least I can do before the assessment wraps. I paused, knife still in hand. Help. From her. The offer hung, blurring ranch and city, hostility fading to something warmer. Boots might get muddy, I warned, but my voice lacked bite. She grinned, eyes steady. Good. Mud's honest, too. Morning broke clear after the storm. Sky washed blue, ground steaming under the rising sun. I was up early, coffee bitter on my tongue as I loaded the truck with wire rolls and post drivers. Eleanor appeared at the door as I revved the engine, dressed in borrowed jeans and a flannel that hung loose on her frame. Her hair was tied back simple, no polish left, just determination in her stance. Ready? I asked, keeping my voice even. She nodded, climbing in without a word, the cab filling with her faint lavender scent mixed with fresh earth. We headed to the north fence, where yesterday's rain had snapped a dozen strands. The work started straightforward, me prying loose the tangled barbs, her handing tools steady. But when it came to stretching the new wire, she insisted on trying. Show me, she said, gripping the reel like it was a blueprint. I demonstrated, feet braced wide, pulling taut until the strand sang low. Her turn came and she yanked hard, the coil spinning wild. It whipped back, snagging her sleeve, drawing a thin red line on her forearm. She cursed soft, more surprised than hurt, but didn't drop it. Again, she muttered, shaking off the sting. I bit back a laugh, the failure light in the heavy air, her persistence cracking something in me. I stepped behind her for the next pull, hands over hers on the reel, guiding the tension. Our fingers brushed rough against smooth, her skin cool where mine burned from the sun. Like this, steady, not force, I murmured, breath close to her ear. She leaned into it, body aligning with mine, the wire humming true under our shared grip. Admiration bloomed quiet, city hands learning ranch rhythm, failing but pushing through. Her laugh came sharp when the post shifted, mud sucking at her boot, but she righted it, sweat beading on her neck. I watched the line of her jaw set, strength hidden under that architect shell, and felt my pulse quicken unbidden. By midday, the section stood firm, but my mind churned. Attraction tugged like a loose rein, her focus mirroring mine in the labor, eyes meeting over a hammered post with a spark I couldn't name. But fear shadowed it, betrayal lurking in her purpose. She was here to map my loss, turn soil to plans that scattered what held me. Every brush of skin felt like a risk, pulling me toward her while the land screamed warning. I hammered harder, nails biting wood, wrestling the pull inside. What if this warmth was just another storm, washing away my footing? Her phone buzzed then, shrill against the quiet. She glanced at the screen, face tightening as she stepped aside. "Boss," she said to me, answering low. I kept working, but words carried on the wind. Deadlines pressing, valuation due by week's end, pressure to push the deal. "I know the stakes," she said, voice edged. "But the site's not what you think. It's alive, not just acres." Her boss cut in sharp, something about budgets and her burnout making her soft. She hung up, jaw clenched, staring at the horizon. The call hung between us, stakes sharpening like barbed wire. Development wasn't abstract now. It was her job, her weight, threatening to drag the ranch under. We broke for water at the truck, canteen passing hand to hand. She drank deep, throat working, droplets tracing her collarbone. I lingered on the curve of her shoulder, the quiet strength in her grip, attraction flaring hot against the fear. Her eyes met mine over the rim, holding steady, seeing the wrestle in my face. No words, just that look. Raw, pulling me closer to the edge. Silence stretched, intimate as a shared breath. The world narrowing to her steady gaze and the beat in my chest. Packing up, I spotted the attic pull down in the barn, old boxes spilling from last week's sort. Help me shift these, I said, needing distance from the heat. We hauled them down, dust motes dancing in the light, and there, tucked in a crate, were Pa's maps. Yellowed paper charting the ranch's veins. Boundaries inked, careful. Notes on water lines and soil shifts. Eleanor's eyes lit, kneeling to unfold one. These are gold, she breathed. Real history, not surveys. The discovery pulled us in, discussion sparking deeper. Her questions on the land's pulse, my stories of Pa's hands drawing them by lamplight. Barriers thinned further, maps bridging our worlds. But the fear lingered, attraction tangled with the threat she carried. Dust settled slow around us in the barn's loft, the maps spread across the rough planks like veins of the land itself. I traced the faded ink with a calloused finger, Pa's handwriting looping tight, notes on the creek's shift after 78 flood, the spot where he buried the old dog under moonlight. Eleanor knelt beside me, her knee brushing mine, accidental, breath steady as she leaned in. The air held hay and old paper, sharp against the fading light slanting through cracks. These aren't just lines, she said, voice low, pointing to a shaded boundary. They tell the ranch's story. We could use them for preservation overlays, highlight historical zones, tie development to eco-trails that keep the core intact. Her ideas flowed then, not blueprints, but bridges. Solar pumps along the ridges, cabins clustered small to spare the pastures, income from tours that let folks touch the history without breaking it. I watched her face light, hands gesturing precise over the paper, city smarts bending to the land's shape. Admiration tugged deeper, her mind seeing paths I hadn't, not selling out, but sustaining. But doubt clung, thick as the dust on my jeans. Could words on a page hold against the bank's hunger? Still, listening, the knot in my chest eased a fraction, her presence warming the chill of the loft. We sat back on our heels, maps curling at the edges, silence falling heavy, but not empty. The day's sweat cooled on my skin, mixing with a faint lavender clinging to her, a city thread in the ranch's weave. I felt exposed, the barriers thinning like worn fence. It's lonely out here, I admitted, words slipping unbidden, voice rough against the quiet. Vast land, but it swallows you whole some nights. No one to share the weight, just echoes in the house. The confession hung, raw as peeled bark. Loneliness I'd carried like a stone in my boot. You know that pull, don't you? The way isolation builds walls thicker than any ridge. Eleanor's eyes met mine, steady in the dim. No judgment there. She shifted closer, the plank creaking under us. I do. Failed hard last year, a relationship that looked perfect on paper. Ambitious partner, shared dreams of building something lasting. But she wanted the spotlight, the next project, left me chasing shadows in empty apartments. Her voice cracked faint, hand reaching to cover mine on the map, fingers cool and sure. Warmth spread from the touch, tension coiling slow in my gut, her thumb tracing a light circle over my knuckles. The air thickened, dust motes swirling like unspoken wants, her scent pulling me in deeper. I froze, pulse thudding heavy, the contact igniting something fierce. Her eyes held questions, vulnerability mirroring mine. The failed builds we'd both nursed, now bridging the space. But fear surged, sharp as barbed wire. I pulled my hand back slow, standing abrupt, the maps rustling in protest. This changes nothing, I said, voice edged, turning to the ladder. You're still here to value it. Turn my home to lines on a screen. Can't let that blur. The words tasted bitter, barrier slamming up, but my body betrayed me, heart racing like a spooked colt, skin tingling where she'd touched. Dust and sweat clung, her lavender faint but insistent, anchoring the ache. She rose too, face shadowed, no push in her stance. I know the threat feels real, but maybe we find ground in between. The loft felt smaller, charged, the pull warring with the push. Dusk settled as we climbed down, the sky bruising purple over the pastures. I grabbed lanterns from the tack room, the night's chill biting through my shirt. "Walk with me," I muttered, needing air, the stars pricking sharp overhead. We moved silent at first, boots soft on the path to the old oak, gravel crunching underfoot. Crickets hummed low, the world vast and quiet, mirroring the turmoil inside. Her shoulder brushed mine again, deliberate this time, and she stopped under the branches. What if the plan shifts? Preservation first, partner with locals, fund from grants. Keep the ranch yours, but viable. Stay with it. Stay here. Her voice dropped on the last, eyes searching mine in the lantern glow. Proposal hanging like starlight. Alternative blooming fragile between us. Stars wheeled overhead as we stood under the oak, the night air cooling sharp against my skin, carrying the damp scent of turned soil from the day's rain. Eleanor's proposal lingered, her words weaving a vision of the ranch remade, not torn apart, but sustained through grants and green designs that let the land breathe while paying the debts. Solar panels on the barn roof, trails for bird watchers instead of heavy boots trampling the creek. "It could work," she pressed, voice earnest in the lantern's flicker. "Blend what you know with what I build. Keep the heart intact." I shifted on my boots, gravel biting through the soles, the oak's branches creaking like old doubts. Traditional views rooted deep in me, pauseway, hands in the dirt without machines humming, no outsiders mapping our solitude for profit. "Sounds pretty on paper," I said, tone edged low. "But eco-trails mean crowds, signs posted, fees collected. This place is quiet for a reason. Your vision clashes with the bones of it, turns my home to a showpiece." The debate sparked then, words trading like fence wire pulled taut. She countered with numbers, viability without sale, but I pushed back, the land's wild pulse over her polished lines. Tension built, not just argument, but the pull beneath, her eyes flashing in the dark, close enough to feel her breath. By the time we reached the house, the air between us crackled, unresolved. I turned in early, the bed creaking under my weight, but sleep dodged like a shadow. Dawn came gray, and with it, the complication. My neighbor's truck rumbling up before coffee cooled. Old Harlan, weathered as the posts he mended, leaned out the window, eyes narrow under his hat. "Heard talk in town," he called, voice gravel rough. "Some city buyout brewing on the Double R. Folks saying you're selling to developers, carving it up for rich retreats." Rumors, spread like dry grass fire, no doubt from Eleanor's car spotted yesterday. Isolation hit hard. Harlan's gaze accusatory, the community I'd nodded to at the feed store now whispering betrayal. "Ain't true," I snapped, gut twisting. "Just assessments." But he drove off shaking his head, leaving me alone with the weight, the ranch feeling smaller, walls closing in from unseen eyes. Eleanor emerged from the guest room, hair tousled, sensing the storm in my stance. "What happened?" she asked, pouring coffee, her hand steady where mine shook. I told her, words sharp as the rumor's sting, isolation deepening like a fresh gully. The argument reignited, heated now, her plans the spark, my traditions the fuel. "You waltz in, stir this up," I said, voice rising, stepping close in the kitchen's tight space. "Now everyone's turning, seeing me as the fool who let the city take hold." She didn't back down, eyes stormy, countering that silence would lose it all to the bank anyway. The peak came sudden, faces inches apart, breaths mingling hot, the charge electric. Her hand lifted, almost touching my arm, a near brush that stopped my heart. Silence fell charged, bodies taut, attraction roaring beneath the fight. Her lips parted, my pulse thundering like an untamed horse breaking free, body betraying every caution with a fierce, reckless want. She broke first, stepping back, chest rising fast. "I didn't mean for this," she whispered, vulnerability cracking through. Then, softer, eyes pleading in the morning light. "Let me stay longer. Refine the plan, talk to your neighbors, make it right. Please." The plea hung, pulling at the frayed edges of me. I nodded slow, the fragile thread holding. One ride, then. Test it on horseback. See if your vision holds the saddle. We saddled up as the sun climbed, her on the borrowed mare, me on my gelding, the trail winding tight through the ridges. Trust teetered with every hoofbeat, the wind whipping our words away. But her beside me felt like ground shifting toward steady. The trail twisted narrow through the ridges, hooves thudding soft on packed earth. The gelding's rhythm steady under me, like a heartbeat I could trust. Eleanor rode beside, the mare picking careful over loose stones, her posture easing into the saddle's sway. Wind tugged at her hair, loosening strands that caught the climbing sun, and for stretches we moved silent, the land speaking instead, sage whispering, distant cattle lowing faint. Trust teetered fragile with every shift, her presence a weight beside mine, pulling and pushing in equal measure. Halfway up the back slope, she reined in, eyes on the valley unfolding below. This isn't just work for me, she said, voice carrying clear over the breeze. My roots are scattered. Grew up in apartments, Dad's firm always moving us for the next build. Never had ground like this. Seeing your maps, the way you hold to it, it's what I'm chasing. Something real to anchor. Her words hung raw, admission slipping like a loosened rein, vulnerability cracking wide. She sought roots, same as me, the vastness swallowing us both, but different. Her in concrete cages, mine in open acres that demanded everything. I glanced her way, throat tight, the confession bridging the gap between us. But before I could respond, her phone buzzed sharp from her pocket, shattering the quiet. She pulled it out, face paling as she read the screen. Company, she muttered, answering low. I kept the gelding moving slow, but her side of the talk carried. Boss demanding the valuation now, hard sell pushed to close by end of week. The site's prime, the voice crackled loud enough to hear. Debts are killing her. Offer double market. Force the hand. Don't get soft out there. Eleanor's jaw clenched, eyes flicking to me, the crisis erupting like dry lightning. Choice forced raw, her job's pressure crashing against the ranch's hold, the land's future teetering on her words. She hung up, phone gripped, white-knuckled, the mare sidestepping uneasy under her tension. Clouds boiled sudden over the western peaks, dark and heavy, mirroring the storm building inside. They're pushing, she said, voice edged. Want me to seal it? Say the ranch is undervalued without development? But I see what it means to you. Betrayal surged hot, accusation spilling before I could rein it. You see? Or you play at it while your firm's trucks line up? I swung down from the saddle, boots hitting ground hard, tethering the gelding quick. She followed, face stormy as the sky, the confrontation boiling over. Came here stirring rumors, now this. Your boss forcing my hand, turning whispers to shouts. I trusted the ride, your talk of staying, but it's all lines on a map to you. Words lashed out, pain twisting sharp, the land's quiet beauty mocking the turmoil. Rain started then, fat drops splattering dust, wind whipping cold through our shirts, physical echo of the passion raging unchecked. She stepped close, rain streaking her face, eyes unflinching. It's not betrayal. I care about the ranch, about you. More than the job. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the ridges, our breaths mingling fast in the downpour. I accused harder, voice breaking against the roar, her counters fierce. Genuine, she swore, seeing my scars in the soil, wanting to mend, not break. The storm mirrored us, turmoil churning to something fiercer, passion under the anger, bodies inches apart, soaked and trembling. Then the turning point. Her hand reached out, grasping mine firm in the rain, water sluicing between our fingers. I choose this, you, the land, not them. She pulled me closer, decision etched in her grip, job's chains snapping like brittle wire. The world narrowed to her touch, warm against the cold, barriers crumbling in the deluge. We stumbled toward the barn, horses trailing, rain hammering relentless. Inside, the dim shelter smelled of hay and damp wood, our clothes clinging heavy. Barriers broke fully then, her confession spilling intimate, wanting me, the quiet strength, the shared burdens pulling her here. I met her gaze, heart thudding wild, the intimate unraveling in whispers and slow touches. Storm raging outside, but peace blooming within. Hay scratched at my back through the damp shirt as we stood in the barn's dim heart, rain drumming the tin roof like a relentless pulse. Eleanor's hand still gripped mine, water dripping from her hair, tracing cold paths down her neck. Her eyes held mine, unflinching in the lantern's sway, confession spilling raw between us. "I've been running from this pull since I arrived," she whispered, thumb brushing my knuckles, rough callus meeting smooth skin. "The land, your strength, it's what I've missed in the city's grind. Burdens like yours, mine, they don't have to crush alone." Her words landed heavy, mirroring the weight I'd carried, shared now in the charged air, hay scent thick and grounding. I stepped closer, the space between us shrinking to nothing, my free hand rising, tentative to her cheek. Skin warm under my palm, rain slick and real, the touch igniting, slow, like embers catching in dry tinder. She leaned into it, breath hitching, soft, and I felt the barriers dissolve, not with force but surrender. My fingers traced her jaw, feeling the tension ease, her eyes fluttering, half shut. The kiss came natural then, slow, unfolding, lips meeting tentative at first, tasting rain and salt and something deeper, unspoken. Her mouth moved against mine, affirming the burdens we'd named. Loss, isolation, the ache of holding on alone. Tongues brushed hesitant, then sure, hands roaming to pull her closer, bodies aligning in the dim light, affirming we could carry together. We sank to a pile of clean straw, clothes shedding like old skins, the barn's warmth wrapping us against the chill. Touches evolved deliberate, my hands mapping her curves, feeling the strength in her frame honed by city walks, not ranch labor. She traced my scars, wire cuts on my arms, the faded burn from a branding iron, her lips following, gentle as dawn light. "These tell your story," she murmured against my skin, voice husky, pulling a shiver through me. Mutual weights intertwined here, her fingers clutching my shoulders as if anchoring to the land itself, my body arching to meet hers, passion blooming, quiet and fierce. We moved together, rhythms sinking like fence wire pulled taut, release crashing slow, bodies trembling in the afterglow, burdens lightened in the shared breath. Lying tangled, her head on my chest, heartbeat steady under her ear, the future unfolded in whispers. "We blend it," she said, fingers lacing mine, voice soft against the rain's fade. "Your hands in the soil, my plans to sustain, solar for the pumps, grants for the trails that keep crowds small. Ranch life with edges softened, viable without breaking." I saw it then, clear as the ridges at sunrise. Her skills mending what the bank threatened, our worlds weaving tight. No more isolation, her city sharpness tempering my rough edges. Sustainable path carved from shared ground. The final obstacle loomed in my mind, the bank's shadow, neighbors' doubts. But accepting her help felt right now, mending emotional fences long splintered. "I let you in," I admitted, voice rough, squeezing her hand. "No more fighting alone. We face it. Debts, rumors, all." She nodded, eyes shining in the lantern's glow, the choice sealing us closer, barriers fully bridged. Night deepened around us, the storm easing to drips, our bond deepening in quiet talks. Whispers of staying, intertwined, her leaving the firm, committing to this dirt, my world expanding beyond solitude. "Stay with me," she breathed, lips brushing my temple, the words a vow in the dark. Sleep came eventual, her body curled to mine, warmth chasing the cold. Dawn crept in pale through the barn slats, light spilling gold over the preserved land, valleys waking slow. We rose tangled, hands linked firm in quiet strength, stepping out to the wet earth. The ramp stretched unbroken, our future rooted deep, burdens shared, like the rising sun. Sunlight slanted through the barn door as we stepped out, the ground soft underfoot from the night's rain, air crisp with the scent of wet pine and turned earth. Eleanor's hand stayed in mine, fingers laced tight, her palm warm against the calluses I'd earned mending what the storms broke. We walked slow toward the house, horses nickering soft behind us, the ranch waking in the gold light, calves stirring in the pasture, windmill creaking steady. No words at first, just the rhythm of our steps sinking, like fence posts set true after a long pull. Inside the kitchen, coffee brewed strong on the stove, steam curling up to chase the chill. She poured 2 mugs, handing me one, her eyes meeting mine over the rim. Steady now. No storm left. I called the firm last night, after you slept, she said, voice low but sure, leaning against the counter. Resigned. Effective immediate. No more blueprints for someone else's land. The words landed solid, like a post driven deep, her choice rooting her here. Partnership, not pity. Her skills for the ranch, drawing plans that sustained without selling soul. Grants for the solar array on the barn, eco-trails narrow and quiet, income trickling steady to pay the bank's bite. We'd blend her lines with my dirt, viable at last. I set the mug down, throat tight, vulnerability rising like dawn mist. Embracing it felt new, raw. No more hiding behind hammer swings and solitary rides. Carve something for us, I said, pulling the knife from the drawer, a scrap of oak from the fallen branch by the creek. She watched as I worked, shavings curling to the floor, shaping 2 hands linked, rough but true, one calloused, one smooth. The wood warmed under my blade, symbol of us, joined, strong against the wind. Her fingers traced the edge when I finished, eyes softening. It's us, she murmured, pulling me close, the embrace sealing growth I'd fought so long. Silence settled then. Not the heavy kind that swallowed whole, but an invitation now, pulling us deeper. You know that shift, don't you? When the quiet stops echoing loss and starts whispering home. The vast land no longer a cage, but a shared breath. Mornings blurred into hours, her beside me at dawn, checking fences, her hands learning the wire's hum. My world expanding, with her laugh cutting the wind. Word spread slow through the ridges, Harlan's truck rumbling back a week later, eyes squinting less suspicious. Heard she's staying, helping with the plans, he grunted over coffee, nodding at Eleanor mending a gate nearby. Locals gathered at the feed store, murmurs turning to nods, changes accepted, the eco-trails bringing steady work without the pave-over fear. Community wove tighter, reinforcing our thread. Dinners at the house filling empty chairs with voices that stayed. Under the old oak that evening, lantern flickering low, she turned to me, face shadowed, soft. Stay with me here? The question hung. Not demand, but hope. Eyes searching mine in the dusk. I pulled her into my arms, lips brushing her temple. The embrace answer enough. Yes. In the press of bodies, the shared weight lifting light, the ranch stretched around us, preserved and alive. Our new beginning rooted deep in the quiet beauty we'd claimed together. The ranch house door clicked shut behind us, sealing in the warmth of our shared life, the land waiting steady outside. If quiet truths like this pull at you, share your story below. Subscribe for more tales of finding home in unexpected places.